I find the opening segments of the film really very impressive because before the story starts to sort of unfold, you actually have just people coming in front, in fact, of the camera, just saying a few sentences, or there's a certain quietness and sadness on their faces. How did you capture that? How did you work on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, there was opening the film with this gentleman who's clearly in a very vulnerable state. We had already started our interview, that kind of thing, and he had such horrific memories. He was, I think, around 11 or 12 or so at the time, and so for me, I wanted that sense that the audience is kind of thrust into this very very emotionally charged issue. So it just kind of opens and he's there on the screen. He doesn't say anything, and then the story starts to be spoken about. And then so in closing the film, it sort of closes with a kind of a fade out. So we kind of fade out of this. It doesn't have a clear-cut ending. But with that opening segment, say, for the first 8-9 minutes, I was cutting between these different interviews to establish this sense of very complicated relationship with the history, with the subcontinent, with the idea of the border, with their particular identity, with their sense about the potential for reconciliation right now. So that I wanted to sort of bring it right into, sort of kind of charge into the
and their own personal
topic.
Tragedies, which they don't necessarily speak, but it shows. So let's actually look at the opening segment, which really sets the mood for the whole film. Then,
my father, whenever there were clouds 20 miles away, he used to recall, "Look, there is rain on my lands." He prayed, "Oh God, bring me back at least once in life to this place, so I may pray in this mosque again."
Which is the part of land on the earth, on the globe, I belong to? That's a very big question.
General Ziaul Haq, he said me, "Mr. Nizami, I am going to India. Would you accompany me?" I said, "If you are going on the tank, I will go to India." He said, "I am afraid I have no strength to go on tank, at least now." I said, "Then let's wait. When you will have, you see, enough strength or power to go to India on tank, I will inshallah accompany you."
In India, I lived for 1,000 years. We came to the subcontinent 1,000 and about 10 years ago. So I certainly know my India.
I was very impressed with some of the people you speak in the film, especially in Pakistan. There is this lady who's Tariq Ali's mother, actually, right? And it was fascinating where she's actually questioning the whole legitimacy or the rationale for the partition. I mean, that kind of a free ability to speak in Pakistan, for instance, I mean, perhaps it's, coming from India, one has a very different notion of Pakistan with all the army rules, etc. But she even questions the kind of Islam that Pakistan has. What were the general reactions in Pakistan, and how were they different from the reactions, for instance, in people in India?
I wouldn't say that, generally speaking, the reactions were different. As we might have spoken about earlier, that the extremities, the fringe on either, pendulum, whichever way it swings, whether it goes to something that's considered so fundamental or something that's considered so left of center, you have that on both sides of the border. You have people who very clearly, to this day, in fact, when I had a screening in Pakistan recently, I was there in November. After one of the screenings, I came down, we had a panel discussion, I came off the stage and I started to engage with the audience, and this one woman, who was in her, I believe she was in her 80s, clearly had witnessed the partition and had been old enough to, I mean, I suppose she was an adult, and you know, to this day she holds this very deep, deep, profound sadness, and you know, said to me that, you know, she was sort of, you know, denouncing Jinnah, and I mean, for me it was fascinating that, I mean, it's clear how profound and deep this feeling still is, and how it does find its way into other generations. It finds its way into the media landscape, and how things are sort of directed through the political discourse on both sides. But yeah, on both sides of the border, you will find those who are happy that, you know, Muslims left India, or the numbers that did leave, and that maybe even more should leave, that kind of thing, as well as those who, of course, lament the division, they lament the creation and separation. And then in Pakistan, you will find those who feel very strongly that no way would they have the opportunity that they have unless this country had been created, and vice versa, that there's very little that they've benefited from by this creation.
And
so
then there were the tragedies that you refer to. I mean, women being raped, women being kidnapped. There is this one woman, I think her husband was the Maharaja of Patiala, and she's quite old now, and she tells this really amazing story about this attempt to relocate the women, Hindu women or Sikh women left behind in Pakistan, and likewise Muslim women who had been, and the exchange that took place. And she makes a very interesting point that, you know, some of the Hindus and Sikhs, when the women were finally returned back to India as such, their families didn't want to co-claim them. I mean, there was an additional layer of tragedy. I mean, apart from what had happened to them, and you know, and you heard that from other people also.
Yeah, in fact, I was even given names of some women who had not been relocated or sent back, and had, you know, converted and basically lived the life as another for all these decades. And I felt that was not a line I wanted to investigate, not a line I wanted to cross in this film. That's why I felt, in terms of what she presented as far as because she was hands-on with a lot of that, so she was able to give more sort of detail and fact kind of information around that facet of the story. But that was not a line I wanted to cross. So you were asking me earlier how open were people to talk about this. So in that sense, there was a little self-editing from my side, that to incorporate it as part of the story, that this is a part of that history, was as far as I wanted to go with that. I felt for some of them, it's not only an invasion of their privacy, but it would be a threat to their life, which I think, you know, in this film, Khamosh Pani, that is very much explored in that film.
Khamosh Pani is
yes.
this by
Sabia
Sumer, which is it's a Pakistani film basically, but the lead actress actually is Kiran Kher. It was shown in New York also, Silent Water.